Hello, everyone, and welcome to English Listening Practice Hub. My name is Emma, and today I'm really happy to share another slow and meaningful English podcast with you. Find a quiet place, take a deep breath, and let your mind relax. This will be your calm moment of the day, a moment just for listening, learning, and growing gently. In this episode, I want to tell you a warm and reflective story built around a simple idea. 7 powerful daily habits that can help you speak English more naturally. But I will not list them like a teacher. I will not lecture you. Instead, I will walk through a day in my life, slowly and softly, showing how these habits fit naturally into real moments. You will hear them inside the story, not as rules, but as experiences, as feelings, as small actions that quietly build your confidence. If you enjoy improving your English through storytelling, soft rhythm, and simple language, you're in the right place. Now get comfortable, settle into the atmosphere, and let's begin our slow journey. I woke up early this morning, long before the city became loud. The light outside my window was pale and gentle, almost shy. I stretched my arms and sat up slowly, giving myself time to wake without rushing. The air felt cool, and the room was quiet. There's something special about mornings like this, when the world is soft and the day feels full of possibility. I walked to the kitchen and made a warm cup of tea. The steam curled upward in thin lines, disappearing into the air like soft thoughts drifting away. I held the cup with both hands and looked outside. Few people were awake. The street was almost empty, and the silence felt like a gift. As I sipped my tea, a habit I love returned to me naturally. I whispered a few simple English phrases to myself. Nothing big, nothing complicated. Just gentle, everyday words like, "Good morning. How are you today? What do I want to focus on?" The phrases flowed softly, like warm breath in the cold air. Talking to myself in the quiet of the morning always makes me feel more connected to the language. Not like a lesson, more like a small morning ritual, a way to open my voice for the day ahead. When I finished my tea, I stepped outside for a short walk. The sky had turned a pale shade of blue, and the air carried the fresh smell of early hours. The city was waking up slowly. Shops were opening their doors. People were leaving their homes for work. Bicycles passed by with quiet wheels cutting through the air. As I walked, I looked around with gentle curiosity. This curiosity was another habit I had learned: observing, noticing, naming. I let English words form softly in my mind as I watched the world. A leaf moving in the wind, a child holding a parent's hand, a window glowing with warm yellow light, a bus stopping at the corner. Every small detail became a natural chance to think in English, not by force, but by presence. The more I noticed, the more words came. The more words came, the more confident I felt. It was easy, peaceful, almost like meditation. I continued walking until I reached a small cafe with big windows and warm lights. Inside, the smell of fresh bread and roasted coffee filled the air. I stepped in, chose a seat by the window, and ordered something simple. While waiting, I opened my notebook, the same old notebook I carry everywhere, and wrote a few short sentences about how I felt. Writing in English every morning had become another quiet habit. I didn't try to sound perfect. I didn't worry about grammar. I just wrote honestly. I feel calm today. I want to grow. I want to speak more naturally every day. The pages of that notebook were filled with simple thoughts, short reflections, tiny moments. But each one had helped me become more comfortable using the language. Writing had become a bridge, a way to connect my inner world with the words I wanted to express. The cafe grew busier as time passed. People entered with their own mornings, their own stories, their own thoughts. Some spoke softly, some laughed, some sat in silence. The sounds blended together into a warm background hum. I watched them for a moment and breathed slowly. Listening to the natural rhythm of voices around me always helped my ear adjust to real, everyday English. I didn't try to catch every word. I just let the sounds flow naturally, like a gentle river. Listening without pressure, that was another daily habit I had learned to love. When my drink arrived, I smiled at the barista and thanked her. A simple thank you, a simple smile. But even these small interactions made me feel more natural. Speaking without preparing, without fear, just being present in the moment. I sat there for a little longer, taking slow sips, letting the warmth settle inside me. And as I watched the city outside the window, I felt a quiet thought rise within me. Every day offers moments to practice, not through textbooks, not through pressure, but through life itself, through calm mornings, gentle walks, warm cafes, curious thoughts. Speaking naturally comes from living naturally with the language. I finished my drink, closed my notebook, and stood up to leave. The day was waiting for me, full of little chances to grow, and I felt ready for all of them. I stepped out of the cafe and felt the gentle warmth of the late morning sun touching my face. The city was finally awake now, louder, brighter, more alive. But inside me, the calm from the early hours was still steady and warm. I took a deep breath and let the cool air fill my lungs. Then I began to walk with no real destination, just moving naturally, letting the day unfold in its own quiet rhythm. As I walked, another one of my daily habits appeared almost automatically, speaking small thoughts out loud, softly, under my breath. It wasn't a conversation. It wasn't a lesson. It was just a gentle way to let my voice flow. I think I will walk by the river, I whispered quietly. The air feels nice today. I like the rhythm of the city right now. These small sentences didn't have to be clever or perfect. They were simply the bridge between my thoughts and my voice, a bridge that helped me stay connected to English as I moved through the day. I turned a corner and headed toward a long, tree-lined street that led to the riverbank. The trees arched above the sidewalk, their branches swaying gently in the wind. Golden leaves fell softly to the ground, covering the pavement in warm colors. I watched them drift down like slow-motion confetti from the sky. As I walked beneath the moving leaves, I practiced another simple habit, describing the world in my mind, not in long sentences, not with pressure, just simple thoughts like, the leaves are beautiful today. The wind feels soft. The trees look peaceful. Every description made me feel more connected, both to the moment and to the language. Language grows stronger when you allow it to live with you, not just inside books. When I reached the river, I stopped for a moment and watched the water move. The sunlight reflected softly on the surface, creating little sparks that danced and then disappeared. A few ducks floated near the shore, moving in slow circles. A cyclist passed behind me, the sound of the wheels rolling quietly on the path. I walked closer to the railing and leaned against it. This place had always been special to me, quiet enough to breathe, alive enough to feel part of something bigger. I pulled my phone from my pocket and put on a simple, slow English podcast, not to study, not to memorize, but to let the language surround me for a few minutes. This was another habit I loved. Passive listening during peaceful moments. No tension, no expectations. Just letting English settle into my mind like soft rain. The voice in the podcast spoke gently, and I listened while I watched the river move. I didn't catch every word. I didn't try to. The goal wasn't perfection. The goal was feeling the rhythm, the tone, the melody of natural English. After a few minutes, I paused the audio and continued walking along the river path. Each step felt light, and the calmness inside me grew deeper. I passed a bench where an old man sat reading a newspaper. His glasses rested low on his nose, and he looked peaceful, almost absorbed in his own quiet world. I sat on the next bench and took out my notebook again. Writing had become my soft place, the habit that helped me understand my thoughts, my feelings, my progress. I flipped to a clean page and began writing slowly. I want to speak more naturally, not perfectly, not quickly, just naturally. The letters flowed easily, and I felt no pressure while writing them. Writing in English had taught me something valuable. When thoughts come slowly, gently, honestly, the language becomes a companion instead of a task. I continued writing. Today I woke up early. I walked through the quiet streets. I watched people start their day, and I listened to the world around me. I paused and looked out at the river again. The sunlight had become warmer, spreading across the water like a golden path. I felt grateful for the quiet morning, grateful for the time to think, grateful for the softness of the day. Then I wrote something I had been feeling all morning but hadn't said aloud yet. I want English to be part of my life, not just part of my studies. That sentence felt true, and because it felt true, it felt powerful. I closed my notebook and held it for a moment on my lap. I wasn't finished writing, but I wanted to continue walking a little more before returning to the words inside me. When I stood up, I felt a small wave of motivation, not a strong push. Just a warm reminder that this journey was mine. Personal, quiet, slow, meaningful. As I continued along the river, I reached a small wooden bridge. The sound of footsteps echoed softly across it. I walked halfway across and stopped, resting my hands on the railing. From there, I could see the city in the distance. Tall buildings, moving cars, people crossing the streets. The city looked busy, but beautiful. Alive, but not overwhelming. I felt connected to it in a way I hadn't felt before, maybe because I was finally connected to myself. I closed my eyes for a moment and breathed in deeply. And in that breath, there was another habit, mindful speaking. I am learning. I am growing. I am becoming more natural every day. I whispered these words softly to myself, letting them float into the air around me. They weren't affirmations. They weren't exercises. They were truths, simple truths that felt gentle and real. When I opened my eyes again, the river was still moving, the trees were still swaying, and the world felt steady. I turned and walked off the bridge, continuing down the path with slow, peaceful steps. Every movement, every breath, every quiet thought became part of the language journey, not forced, not pressured, not graded, just lived. I left the bridge and continued walking along the river, letting the rhythm of my steps blend with the sounds around me. The city had fully awakened now, cars humming in the distance, footsteps tapping on the pavement, soft conversations drifting through the air. Yet somehow, I felt protected inside my own quiet space. As I walked, I felt the gentle pull of another familiar habit, shadowing. Not as a lesson, not as a strict exercise, but as something natural that happened when I heard English voices around me. Two tourists were walking behind me, speaking softly in English about the weather. Their voices floated through the air, calm and natural. "It feels warmer now," one of them said. "Yes, the sun is coming out," the other replied. I let their words pass through me and repeated a few of them quietly under my breath. Just soft echoes. "It feels warmer now. The sun is coming out. No pressure. No need to be perfect. Just a gentle imitation of natural rhythm." Shadowing like this always made me feel closer to the language, like my voice was learning the shape of English without effort. I smiled to myself and continued walking. The river shimmered beside me, and small waves touched the stone edge with a soft, repeating sound. It was like the city's heartbeat. Soon I reached a small open plaza near the water. There were a few wooden tables under big umbrellas, and people were sitting with coffees, notebooks, and quiet thoughts. I felt drawn to the peaceful energy of the place, so I found an empty table and sat down. The chair was slightly warm from the sun. A breeze moved across the plaza, lifting napkins and shifting hair lightly. I placed my notebook on the table and took a sip of water from the bottle I carried. I opened the notebook again, letting the blank page wait for me. Sometimes writing came fast. Sometimes it came slowly. But today, it came gently, like a steady stream of thoughts. I wrote, "I want to live with English, not beside it." As I wrote the sentence, I felt it settle inside me like a soft truth. Then I let more thoughts flow. It is not about studying all day. It is about listening, noticing, speaking softly when I can, writing when my heart feels full, using the language like a friend, not like a test. I paused and looked around. A couple nearby spoke quietly, their conversation soft and warm. A young man tapped lightly on a laptop, headphones on, lost in his own world. A woman read a book, turning each page slowly and peacefully. The plaza felt like a living classroom, not the kind with rules and tasks, but the kind where life itself teaches you. I closed my notebook for a moment and rested my hands on the table. Then another thought formed, one connected to another daily habit I deeply valued: thinking in English. Not all day, not in complicated ways, just allowing small, everyday thoughts to form in English before they formed in any other language. What time is it? I should take a break. This place feels nice. I want to stay a little longer. These tiny, natural thoughts had helped me more than any textbook ever had. Because thinking in English, even in simple phrases, makes speaking feel easier later. It removes fear. It builds flow. It turns English from something outside of you into something inside you. I took a deep breath and tried it again, softly, inside my mind. This moment feels peaceful. I am learning through living. I don't need pressure to grow. The thoughts felt warm, real, and comforting. After a few minutes, I stood up and walked toward the small steps leading down to the lower part of the riverbank. The stones were warm under my shoes, and the shadows shimmered gently in the moving water. I sat on the steps, letting my feet touch the cool surface of the stone. The river moved quietly, carrying soft reflections of the sky. As I sat there, I remembered one more habit that had changed my English journey. Asking myself small questions in English. Not deep questions, not heavy questions, just simple ones that kept my mind active. What do I see? What do I hear? How do I feel right now? What do I want to say? I asked one softly. How do I feel right now? And the answer came naturally. I feel calm. I feel open. I feel connected. The words were simple, but they were true. I watched a small boat pass slowly on the river. Quiet, steady, almost dreamlike. The people inside spoke softly, and their laughter echoed in gentle waves across the water. I listened and let the sound wash over me. Then, without thinking, I whispered a few words. This day is teaching me how to speak with my heart. I didn't plan to say it. It just came out naturally, a sign that the language inside me was becoming more a part of who I was. After sitting there for a long time, feeling the softness of the afternoon, I stood and walked back up the steps to the plaza. The sun was higher now, casting warm light over everything. Shadows moved slowly. Voices blended softly. I walked through the city again, letting the day continue to guide me.
No rules.
No pressure, just natural movement, natural thoughts, natural English flowing quietly inside me. Every moment felt like a step toward confidence, a step toward comfort, a step toward speaking naturally. I continued walking through the streets, letting the sunlight warm my shoulders as the afternoon settled gently across the city. Everything around me felt more alive now. Shops were open, their signs bright. People talked in small groups near doorways. Children laughed as they chased each other across the square. And yet, inside me, the calm I had built since morning stayed steady, like a quiet flame that didn't mind the world's noise. As I walked, I passed a small bookstore with tall windows. For a moment, I stopped and looked inside. Shelves climbed all the way up to the ceiling. Soft yellow lights glowed between the rows. And a few people wandered slowly through the aisles, touching spines, reading titles, discovering quiet treasures. I felt myself drawn inside. A small bell rang as I pushed the door, and a warm, gentle silence wrapped around me. The air smelled like paper and ink, mixed with a faint scent of old wood. It reminded me of mornings when I used to sit and read for hours without looking at the clock. I walked between the shelves, brushing my fingers lightly across the books. As I moved deeper into the store, I began another habit I loved: reading simple English sentences out loud, softly, like warm breath. Not full paragraphs, not complicated lines, just small pieces. A title, a phrase, a single sentence from the first page of a book. Today is a new beginning, I murmured quietly as I opened one book to a random page. Another book said, "She walked through the garden with a quiet heart." I let the words rest on my tongue, feeling their weight, their shape, their sound. Reading out loud in soft whispers always helped me connect my voice to the language in a gentle way. No pressure, no audience, only presence. I placed the book back on the shelf and walked toward a small reading corner at the back of the store. It had 2 chairs, a tiny wooden table, and a small lamp glowing softly. The light made the space feel warm, private, almost hidden. I sat down and opened my notebook again. The pages were starting to feel familiar, like a friend who listens quietly. I wrote, "I love the sound of simple English. Not perfect English. Not difficult English. Just simple words that feel honest." Then I wrote another thought. "When I read slowly, I feel connected to myself." I paused, letting my eyes wander across the quiet bookstore. Every person there seemed lost in their own small universe. The teenager reading a fantasy story, the older man flipping through a travel book, the woman choosing a journal for herself. Seeing them made me realize something important. Everyone learns through their own path, their own rhythm. There is no perfect way to learn a language, no single method.
No magical shortcut.
There are only moments, moments when you listen, moments when you speak softly, moments when you notice something, moments when words become part of your life. I closed the notebook and stood up, walking slowly toward the door. As I stepped outside, the warmth of the afternoon hit me again, wrapping me in soft, golden light. I continued walking through the city, and soon I reached a small park. The trees there were tall and strong, their leaves shifting gently in the wind. People sat on benches reading books, talking quietly, or simply looking at the sky. I walked to a bench under a big tree and sat down. The shade felt cool against my skin. From my bag, I took out my earphones and put on a slow English audio. Not a lesson, not a lecture, but a calm conversation between 2 people discussing life, feelings, memories. Their voices were warm and steady, rising and falling in a natural rhythm. As I listened, I practiced another quiet habit, repeating a single, useful sentence from the audio. Not the whole conversation, not every line, just one sentence that felt meaningful. The speakers said, "I'm learning to trust my voice." I let the sentence sit in the air for a moment. Then softly, under my breath, I echoed it. "I'm learning to trust my voice." I repeated it again, slowly. "I'm learning to trust my voice." The habit wasn't about memorizing. It wasn't about perfection. It was about feeling the sentence, letting it live inside me. After a few minutes, I paused the audio and took a deep breath. The park felt alive with gentle sounds, children playing on the grass, birds singing from branches above, dogs barking softly in the distance. The wind carried the faint smell of flowers mixed with the earthy scent of the soil. I leaned back on the bench and let my thoughts flow in English. I want to keep growing. I'm not in a hurry. Every small moment helps me speak more naturally. I wasn't forcing the language. I wasn't trying to perform. I was simply thinking softly, honestly, courageously. After a while, I stood up and continued walking through the park. My steps were slow, my mind calm, my heart open. I felt more connected with every minute, not because I was studying, but because I was living with the language inside me. As I reached the far end of the park, I saw a small pond surrounded by stones. The water was still, reflecting the sky like a mirror. A few tiny ripples formed around ducks swimming lazily. I sat on the edge of the stone border and watched the water move. The world around me softened. The sunlight shimmered on the surface, breaking into quiet patterns. And then, gently, almost without thinking, I whispered another sentence, a sentence that had been building inside me all day. I want to speak from my heart, not from fear. The words felt true.
Soft. Alive.
They fell into the air like feathers, light and honest. I stayed at the pond for a long time, breathing slowly, feeling the calm inside me grow deeper with every breath. Every habit I practiced that day had guided me to this moment, a moment where English didn't feel like a task anymore. It felt like a companion, something warm, something personal, something real. I stayed by the pond for a while, letting the quiet afternoon settle deep into my chest. The water moved slowly, carrying soft reflections of sky and branches. Every ripple felt like a small reminder that nothing stays still. Not the water, not the day, not our thoughts, not our progress. Everything moves gently, naturally, in its own time. When I finally stood up, I felt lighter. Not because anything big had happened, but because I had allowed myself to slow down, to breathe, to feel the language living beside me. Sometimes growth is quiet. Sometimes it arrives like soft sunlight on your skin, warm, not loud. I walked toward the far exit of the park, where a narrow path led back into the city. The path curved gently, lined with tall bushes that rustled softly each time the wind passed through them. Every sound, every movement felt like part of a slow, beautiful rhythm. As I walked, another habit returned to me. The habit of imagining small English conversations in my mind. Not full dialogues, not perfect sentences, just tiny moments where I imagine myself speaking naturally, like, "What a peaceful place. I needed this walk. I feel more relaxed than I expected." These small imaginary conversations always help me break the barrier between silence and speaking. They made English feel like a living part of my thoughts, not something I used only when necessary. I continued walking until the path opened into a wide street. Shops stood on both sides, their doors open, colorful signs swinging gently above them. People flowed in and out, laughing, talking, carrying bags, moving through their own stories. I stepped into a small grocery shop. The air inside smelled like fruit and fresh bread. Soft music played from a speaker near the counter. I wasn't there to buy much, just a bottle of water and maybe something sweet, but I loved these small moments of interaction. Standing in line, I practiced another gentle habit, preparing one simple English sentence in my mind and then using it naturally. Today I chose something easy. Hello, how are you?
And
Thank you, have a nice afternoon. Nothing complicated, nothing dramatic, just soft, everyday English I could say without thinking. When it was my turn, I offered the sentence with a small smile. The cashier responded warmly, and the exchange lasted only a few seconds, but those seconds mattered. Every real interaction, no matter how small, builds confidence like quiet stones stacked one on top of the other. When I stepped back outside, the afternoon light had changed. It was warmer, softer, with golden shadows stretching across the street. I began walking again, letting the energy of the city hum around me. As I moved through the crowds, I felt the pull of yet another habit, listening to natural English around me without trying to understand every word. I passed a group of students laughing, a couple discussing their plans for the weekend, a man talking on his phone about a meeting. None of it was particularly important, but the sound of English in its natural rhythm surrounded me like music. I didn't listen to understand. I listened to feel. After a few minutes, I left the busy street and turned into a quieter neighborhood. The buildings were older here, with small balconies and plants hanging from windows. Laundry swayed gently in the afternoon breeze, and cats slept on stone steps warmed by the sun. I slowed my pace, taking in the slow, home-like atmosphere. It reminded me of childhood afternoons, quiet, warm, timeless. I reached a long stone wall with a line of benches beside it. The shade from the walls stretched across the sidewalk, making it a perfect place to rest. I sat down and let my body relax against the cool, wooden surface. Then came a moment I always treasured, the habit of silent reflection in English. I closed my eyes and let thoughts drift softly. Today has been good for my heart. I feel more connected to myself. Speaking naturally is not only about words, it is about calm. The thoughts floated through my mind like slow clouds, gentle and honest. I opened my eyes again and took out my notebook. The pages were already filled with thoughts from the morning and early afternoon, but I still had more to say. Quietly, truthfully, I wrote, I am learning to live inside the language, to breathe with it, to move with it, to let it shape me softly. My handwriting was slow, almost delicate. The words felt like steps, small, meaningful steps toward a more confident voice. I continued writing. Speaking naturally is not about perfection. It is about comfort. It is about presence. It is about caring less about mistakes and more about expression. When I finished the sentence, I paused and looked around. A dog walked slowly by, wagging its tail. A woman passed with a bag of groceries, the handles stretching under the weight. A man sat on the bench across from me, reading something on his phone. Life was moving, not fast, not slow, just moving. I closed my notebook and placed it gently back into my bag. I leaned forward, rested my elbows on my knees, and whispered to myself, I am learning. I am growing. I am doing enough. The words felt real. They felt like something I needed to hear. After a few minutes, I stood up and continued walking through the neighborhood. The sun was sliding lower in the sky now, turning the buildings a soft shade of orange. The air felt warmer, almost wrapping itself around me like a gentle hug. I passed a small playground where children played with bright laughter. Their voices rose and fell like a joyful melody. I let the sound fill me with warmth. As I continued walking, I realized that every habit I practiced today, speaking softly, writing gently, noticing details, listening with calm, thinking in English, had shaped the entire day, not as rules, not as obligations, but as quiet companions. Companions that made me feel natural,
alive, connected.
and I knew something important. Learning happens when the heart is open. I continued walking slowly through the quiet neighborhood, feeling the soft glow of the late afternoon settle across my shoulders. The air was warm, but not heavy. The sun hung low in the sky, painting the buildings with soft gold, as if the whole city had taken a deep breath and exhaled light. It was the kind of light that makes everything look softer. Windows, flowers, stone walls, even the passing faces of strangers. I turned a corner and found myself on a small street lined with old houses. Some had vines climbing their walls. Some had colorful shutters half open, letting warm light spill onto the pavement. A gentle breeze carried the faint scent of jasmine from a garden hidden behind a tall wooden fence. I walked slowly, savoring the peaceful atmosphere. Every step felt like a conversation between me and the world, quiet, unhurried, honest. As I moved forward, another familiar habit began to rise inside me, almost naturally. Telling the story of my day in simple English, inside my mind, softly, calmly. Not to impress anyone, not to practice grammar, just to reflect, to understand myself, to let my thoughts take shape through the language. So I let the words form silently. This day has been gentle. I feel different inside. I needed this calm. The thoughts felt like soft truths floating through me, making space where there had once been tension. I turned into a long street that led toward a hill overlooking the river. It was a place I visited sometimes, especially on days when I needed space to think. The climb was slow but comfortable, and the air grew cooler as I walked upward. The higher I went, the quieter the city became. The sounds of traffic faded. The voices of people softened. Soon, all I could hear was the wind brushing across the hill and the faint echo of distant birds calling to each other. When I reached the top, the view opened wide in front of me. The river sparkled below. The rooftops stretched across the city like gentle waves of color. The sky above me was soft and huge, shifting slowly into shades of blue and gold. I sat on the grass under a tall tree, the same tree I had visited many times before. Its branches spread wide like arms ready to protect anything resting beneath them. The grass around the trunk was cool and smelled faintly of earth. I sat cross-legged, let my hands rest on my knees, and breathed in deeply. a deep breath that filled my chest completely, a breath that made something inside me settle. Then another habit came, one that always felt powerful and emotional. Speaking to myself gently in English, like talking to a friend.
I didn't plan what to say.
I didn't think too much. I simply let the words rise softly. You're doing well. You're trying. That matters. You don't have to be perfect to make progress. The wind carried the words away, but the meaning stayed inside me. I closed my eyes for a moment. The world softened into a warm blur behind my eyelids. I felt the rhythm of my breath. I felt my heart steady and warm, and I let myself rest. After a few quiet minutes, I opened my eyes again and watched the city below. Everything felt both distant and close at the same time, like I was part of the world, but also gently separate from it, observing it with calm eyes. I took out my notebook once more, letting it rest on my lap. The pages fluttered slightly in the wind. I held them down with my palm and began to write slowly. I want to speak naturally. I want to feel relaxed when I speak. I want English to feel like breath, steady, warm, alive. Each line felt like a small promise. I kept writing. I learned something today. The more I slow down, the more the language becomes part of me. The more I breathe, the more naturally I speak. The more I notice, the more confident I feel. I paused, letting my eyes drift across the words. Then I wrote something even more personal. I want to trust myself. I want to trust my voice. I want to trust that I am enough. The wind brushed my cheek, as if agreeing with me. As the sun continued sinking toward the horizon, the colors in the sky shifted, yellow turning to orange, orange turning to soft pink. It felt like the world was gently closing the afternoon and opening the door to evening. I closed my notebook and placed it gently beside me on the grass. My hand rested over my heart for a moment, feeling the steady warmth inside. I whispered another soft sentence to myself. I am still learning, but I am learning beautifully. I sat in silence for a while, letting the words linger inside me. Then I stood up slowly, dusting grass from my clothes. The air had grown cooler, but it felt refreshing, not cold. I began walking down the hill, feeling new energy in my steps, calm energy, grounded energy. As I descended, the city lights slowly began to glow, one by one, like stars quietly appearing before nightfall. Every light felt like a reminder that even small things shine, even small progress matters, even small moments help us grow. And as I reached the bottom of the hill, walking back toward the soft lights of the streets, I whispered one more quiet truth. I am finding my natural voice one gentle day at a time. I reached the bottom of the hill just as the evening settled over the city, like a gentle blanket. Warm lights glowed in windows. Shadows stretched softly across the streets. People walked in slow, relaxed patterns, couples holding hands, friends talking quietly, workers heading home with tired but peaceful steps. The day was changing but not ending. It felt like the world was exhaling, letting go of its daytime tension. I followed a narrow path that curved toward the river again. The water looked darker now, reflecting the orange and pink sky in long shimmering streaks. The air was cooler, but not cold, the kind of cool that wakes your skin gently. As I walked, I felt the soft presence of everything I had practiced throughout the day moving inside me like a quiet river. When I reached the riverbank, I sat on a low stone wall and let my feet dangle just above the water. The sound of the river flowing beneath me felt like a heartbeat, steady, natural, comforting. I breathed in the evening air, letting its freshness calm me even more. I closed my eyes for a moment and let the entire day move through my mind. The silent morning, the soft voices in the cafe, the peaceful walk along the river, the bookstore with its gentle light, the park filled with children's laughter, the hill where my heart found space to breathe. It felt like a story made not of drama or excitement, but of presence, of softness, of connection. I whispered quietly to myself, "This day changed me." Not in a dramatic way, not in a way the world could see, but in a way that I could feel deeply, quietly, honestly. I opened my eyes and watched the water for a long moment. A soft wind brushed across the surface, creating ripples that expanded outward in delicate circles. I let the rhythm of the water guide my breathing, slow and steady. Then a new habit arose inside me, the habit of speaking gentle gratitude in English. I whispered, "I am grateful for today. I am grateful for the quiet moments. I am grateful for my voice, even when it shakes." My words blended with the sound of the river, almost disappearing into the evening air, but I felt them deeply. I reached into my bag and pulled out the postcard I had bought earlier in the day, the one with the drawing of a person sitting under a tree on a hill, watching the city below. I held it in my hands and looked at it carefully. It was such a simple sketch. Soft lines, gentle colors, yet it told a whole story, a story that felt like mine. I traced the outline of the tree with my finger and whispered, "This picture feels like my heart." It felt true. I turned the postcard over and looked at the blank side. Then slowly, carefully, I took out my pen and wrote a single sentence on it. I want to live with this calm. Every day, every word, every breath. The sentence felt like an anchor, a promise, a wish, a gentle truth. I placed the postcard back in my bag and looked at the river again. The city lights reflected softly on the water, creating a long, glowing path. It looked like a quiet road made of light. For a moment, I imagined walking on that road, moving slowly, softly, naturally, the way I wanted to live with the language. And then another thought came, gentle and honest. Speaking naturally isn't about speaking fast. It's about speaking from peace. The thought stayed with me, warm and grounding. I stood up from the stone wall and walked along the riverbank. Each step felt lighter than the one before. My shoulders felt relaxed. My breathing felt natural. My mind felt open. As I walked, I whispered small sentences to myself, not as practice, not as study, but as gratitude. I am learning slowly. I am becoming more natural. I am not afraid of mistakes. I am speaking from my heart. The words came out easily, flowing with the slow rhythm of the evening. I didn't correct myself. I didn't doubt myself. I just spoke. After a while, I reached a small bench near the water. It was empty, surrounded by soft light from a nearby lamp. I sat down and leaned back, letting the silence of the night begin to form around me. The city felt different at this hour, quieter, more reflective, more honest. It felt like the perfect ending to a day of gentle growth. I closed my eyes again and let the soft darkness settle behind my eyelids. The wind brushed my face. The sound of distant footsteps echoed lightly. The river whispered its endless song. And then, softly, almost like a prayer to myself, I whispered, "I am ready to trust my natural voice." Saying it out loud felt like releasing something heavy I had carried for a long time. A weight I didn't notice until it was gone. I opened my eyes and looked up at the sky. The first stars were appearing, tiny, soft lights scattered across the deepening blue. They looked like quiet reminders that even the smallest points of light matter. I stood up and walked one last time along the river, feeling the evening wrap around me like a soft blanket. I carried everything I had learned with me: the calm, the habits, the gentle confidence, the soft inner voice. I felt ready. Not completely, not perfectly, but honestly. When I finally reached the end of the path, I stopped, took one more deep breath, and whispered the final truth of the day. I am learning, and that is enough. And with that soft sentence, the day and the story settled into calm completion. Thank you so much for listening to this slow and meaningful story today. My name is Emma, and I hope this gentle journey helped you feel calmer, more connected, and a little closer to your natural English voice. Remember this: speaking naturally does not come from pressure or perfection. It comes from moments like these: quiet reflection, simple thoughts, soft sentences, and small habits that guide you toward confidence without fear. Every day you can grow a little more. Every day you can practice without forcing yourself. Every day you can let the language become a natural part of your life. The way you breathe, the way you move, the way you feel. If you keep listening to stories like this, you will notice your speaking change slowly but surely. Your voice will become softer, freer, more relaxed. You will think more naturally. You will speak more comfortably. And step by step, you will unlock a version of yourself that feels confident and alive in English. So stay with us here at English Listening Practice Hub. There will always be another story, another calm moment, another chance to grow with me. If you enjoyed this episode, keep listening, keep practicing, and keep trusting yourself. Because every time you come back, learning becomes easier, and your English becomes more natural.